Shabbat Shalom, everyone. Thanks for joining me for another of our Torah studies together. I don't have my magazine on me right now, but take whatever's on your mind, whatever's been you've been thinking about during the week, and just put that to the side. And I'm gonna get my capote. I'm gonna wear this this just blue one. Oh yeah, it's like the Jerusalem skyline. So I'm gonna put that on. Hope you've all been enjoying the warmer weather. All right, there we go. Now we got our Tanakh. And before we can start reading it, we've got our blessings to say. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kidshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu la'asok b'divrei Torah. Blessed are you, Adonai, our God, sovereign of the universe, who hallows us with mitzvot, commanding us to engage with words of Torah. All right, so, I had a different setup for this, so you can actually see when I'm reading. This week, our Torah portion is called Tisa, and it is a very famous portion. You know it. It's got the golden calf. It's got Moses breaking the tablets. It's got Moses remaking the tablets. Oops, I'm in Leviticus now. All right, here we go. So, for this section, Moses has broken the tablets. He came down. He sees the Israelites and the golden calf, and he gets upset, and he breaks the tablets, and he goes back up to God, has a discussion with God, and then has to make new tablets. The first tablets God made, the second tablets Moses has to make because he broke the first ones, and so it seems it's only fair that he replaces them. Right, one more page. Thought I was there. Okay. The Lord said to Moses, "Carve 2 tablets of stone like the first, and I will inscribe upon the tablets the words that were on the first tablets, which you shattered." It's a heavy way to say you screwed up. "Be ready by morning, and in the morning come up to Mount Sinai and present yourself there to me, on the top of the mountain. No one else shall come up with you, and no one else shall be seen anywhere on the mountain, neither shall the flocks and the herds graze at the foot of this mountain." So Moses carved 2 tablets of stone, like the first, and early in the morning he went up on Mount Sinai as the Lord had commanded, taking the 2 stone tablets with him. The Lord came down in a cloud. He stood with God there and proclaimed the name Lord. The Lord passed before him and proclaimed, the Lord, a God compassionate and gracious, slow to anger, abounding in kindness and faithfulness, extending kindness to the 1,000th generation, forgiving iniquity, transgression, and sin. Yet God does not remit all punishment, but visits the iniquity of parents upon children and children's children, upon the 3rd and 4th generations. Moses hastened to bow low to the ground in homage, and said, If I have gained your favor, O Lord, pray, let the Lord go in our midst, even though this is the stiff-necked people. Pardon our iniquity and our sin, and take us for your own. So, that's the portion. I think it's very interesting that while Moses has to make this payment back to God, payment's not the right word, recompense about breaking the tablet. So Moses has to remake them because Moses broke them. So sort of, you break it, you buy it kind of thing. And because of that, God then lists off all the ways that God is merciful, that God forgives iniquity, that God is gracious, that God is slow to anger. And he says this immediately after punishing Moses quite harshly for reacting in a moment of passion. In our justice system, there's the phrase crime of passion, which means if you commit a crime because in that moment, in like a very short amount of moment, you were really, really angry, and obviously I'm not a lawyer, I'm not going to describe this perfectly, but like you kind of lose your mind in that moment, and you can be given a different conviction or non-conviction in some cases, depending on whether it's considered a crime of passion or not. But in this case, it doesn't matter. God says to Moses, "You've got to remake stuff, and I'm going to talk about how gracious and how good and how forgiving I am. Although not always. Sometimes I visit the iniquities upon the future generations of people." It's a hard balance to make. It's difficult sometimes to know in our lives when we need to be harsh and when we need to be forgiving. And I like how this juxtaposes those ideas, that while Moses is paying back his debt to God for breaking the tablets, he also has to listen to God talk about how forgiving he is. And I think that that is a good example that we can think that we're really forgiving. Sometimes we have to look at our actions. This is actually going a different direction than I had expected. But God sometimes isn't the God of the Old Testament, the God of the Hebrew Bible, the God that Jews talk about, can be rather harsh. And being harsh can be an important thing because we can learn through punishment and through consequences. If you run a red light in a car and you get a ticket, you're not going to want to do that again. If you could run a red light without getting any ticket and without getting in a car crash, why would you stop? And so, man, I don't know where this is going. Well, sometimes our lessons don't quite go the way that we expected. But Torah is difficult. We're supposed to wrestle with it. It's not always supposed to give us easy answers. On the one hand, we want to be merciful, and sometimes we're not as merciful as we want to be. Sometimes we want to be strict, and we want to be seen as strict because being strict can be respectable. But sometimes we actually need to be merciful, even if it bothers us, and even if it means we have to let things go that we actually don't want to. It's important to balance our relationships with people between being merciful and being understanding and being gracious towards them, and being harsh and saying, here are my boundaries, here are the things that I'm not going to allow. And I think that's probably the best takeaway that we can pull from this, is that on the one hand, God very generally is gracious and forgiving and those things. And on the other hand, there are some things where God's like, no, that's the line, can't cross it. But also Moses pretty regularly talks to God and talks God down from being super angry to being kind of angry or being not angry at all. So it's important to engage with ourselves when we're angry or to engage with others when they're angry and not just let the anger take over. We have to have these conversations and we have to think about mercy and discipline at once. And we shouldn't let one dominate the whole conversation on its own. So there we go. So now we got our Misha Barak. If you know someone who's in need of healing, yourself, someone else, coronavirus, not coronavirus, maybe they're getting some pandemic fatigue, although now it's warmer, it's a little easier to go outside or at least a walk. But whatever it is, now is a good time to think about that person. And if you can't think of any person in mind, then think about how you can balance mercy and discipline in your own life, as our Torah portion talked about. So here we go. All right. Thank you. I hope that was as relaxing as it was for me. I don't usually take two minutes out of my day just to kind of sit. And so I like that. I hope that you get something out of it as well. Thank you for joining me for another of our Torah study specials. Or not special, Torah study weeklies. So if you have any questions, either about this or about anything else, feel free to shoot me an email. It'll be down in the comments. And otherwise, Shabbat Shalom.